So inside a garage, this is the old version. We talked about the new version of the same plan in the new areas where you've got rooms above the garage. So this house above is the bedrooms. They're all above here right now. So remember what we talked about before about how cold those bedrooms could be when they're over top of a garage, because the garage is not a basement. It's not heated, it's not in the basement. So I don't see a heater in here. So the only way of insulating that they had here was to insulate. So you've got your floorboards above you and the insulation, and you've got a ceiling here. So there's no dead space in between that's being heated. Most likely these rooms will be cool. And you say that to them. Unless you heat this room, there's no way that those, and then of course they don't have carpet anymore in most of the bedrooms, so it will be cool in the mornings. If you want to heat that up, you need to keep the heat in this room. You need to keep the heat here as well. These doors are not really well insulated. So if you wanted to heat this up, you probably have to do some upgrades to this to really be efficient as far as your garage and heating is concerned. Obviously, these garage door openers are brand new. Well, they were in 77 anyway. And most likely, they're not going to last. They're probably going to be noisy. The chains, you know, if you do a regular maintenance to them, they look like they're well oiled and stuff. These are the springs that lift them. If you ever see a spring that's got a break in it, that your garage door won't work. And it might go down in a hell of a bang as well. And it should have the tension on it so that if something was underneath the kit or whatever, it would stop. The home inspectors will check all that kind of stuff out. But if you physically see something, it's like, oh, that spring is broken, right? Or the cables are broken, because everything is about cables. The cables pull the bottom of the doors based on the spring tension. And if you want it to go up easier, you add more spring tension. And then it helps lift the whole thing up. If you don't have springs working, like if you ever broke one of these and tried to lift the door, most people cannot push the door up without a spring action to it. The door is that heavy. So, needless information. But grade beam, are you seeing anything along the outside of this garage that cause any concerns that you would bring to your clients?
Looks like cracking.
Is it cracking, or what is it doing there?
I don't know if it's cracking or just the paint falling off the concrete.
Yeah, so they've painted the concrete, but there's definitely a movement all along here at about the same height all the way across. What do you think that height might be?
You trying to go out?
No, it's about the top of the landscaping on the outside. So could it be some water that's getting in there? Yeah. And this is called spalling. This is falling apart. If you were to take a scraper, you would scrape this kind of stuff off. And so now you're deteriorating. You might have, instead of 8 inches, you might be down to 7 inches. And over time, it's getting less and less. You'll see this kind of stuff a lot in even older homes. The nice advantage of the like City Park older homes is their basement walls are 1 foot to 2 feet thick. Their concrete wasn't as good back then, and so it's a lot thicker. It can deteriorate more before it becomes an issue. But when you've only got 6, 8 inches of thickness on these, it doesn't take much to start deteriorating. So it's a little bit cosmetic right now, but it's starting to be an issue. And you could scrape all that down and you could recoat it for aesthetics or repaint it, or you could do a scratch coat, like a parging on it as well, which would be another option for you. But it's something to keep your eye on, but it doesn't look good. And that's the big thing. The house is not going to fall down because of this. So I use that as an example lots of times when home inspectors pick things out, and I'm like, is the house going to fall down because of it? No. Okay. In 30 years of selling houses, I've never seen a house fall into its own basement because the basement collapsed. And so the worst case scenarios that a lot of these home inspectors can come up with are not earth-shattering. They're fixable. It's just, you've got to put everything into perspective so your clients don't walk out of there going, oh, what did we just do? You got me into this.
Or that it's typical for the age of the house.
Very typical. If you buy a 100-year-old house, it's 100 years old.
So Jerry, why did they do the concrete up that high? Was there a reason, or was that a choice?
Most likely they wanted it because you have low, like an average garage just has a roof on it and that's it for weight. This has extra rooms, so the engineer who designed this would have gave them the specs that they needed for the thickness and the height and where the pilings would be, because there would be pilings in that corner. Most likely, this is a beam along here, right? Because there's a telepost right here, so there'll be pilings here, and most likely pilings in that corner. There might be some others as well, but they would have set out in their design where all these pilings should have been, and they tell you what it needs to be done. This is high compared to most, but I've definitely seen them. So,
I've seen them before, just didn't.
yeah. So
Didn't think it through.
what's in here?
Venting.
Your furnace.
Look,
Oh.
furnace venting, right? So the furnace is not here, but the venting most likely, it's because if your bedrooms are above here, they have to get heated somehow. So when we go upstairs, most likely you'll see the vent down the middle of the hallway, and you may or may not see them go to the outside walls. The vents should come out at the windows, which means that if you bring the main stacks in here, then you've got lines going out to underneath the windows, which means that there's less insulation. So again, there could be some cold spots. It's not the best way of doing it now. We've learned a better way of doing this, but it is what it is. So they love the areas, they love the neighborhoods, but the technology in the building isn't the same as what it is in 2020. And it's no different if you go into Varsity View. The technology is different. 2x4 construction and insulation in Varsity View could mean newspaper, sawdust, wood chips, horsehair, who knows what, right? It is what it is, and it might go all the way to the top, or it might have settled 2/3 of the way down. It is what it is. So again, technology's changed a lot. I see a water line in here as well. So most likely there's a shut-off valve inside the house for this, and it's most likely cold only. But make them aware of that. Now, what if you saw a dryer vent into a garage? Would you make any comment to your clients? What would it be?
Move it.
Just moisture.
Moisture.
Who said move it? Why?
Oh, because it's got, gas coming in, if it's carbon monoxide possibly.
Why do doors have automatic door closers from garages to houses?
So there's carbon dioxide.
Carbon monoxide, right? So you can't have a physical open passage from a house into a garage. You will see some people who have wanted to heat their garage through their dryer, so they'll run their dryer vent and they'll run it into the house. One, horrible moisture. That moisture needs to get out of the house. And two, if a car's running, that carbon monoxide that's low, if your dryer's not running, but maybe your furnace is running and drawing air, remember it's drawing it from somewhere, it will draw air from here and suck it right into your house. That's the reality, right?
Seen that?
Sorry?
Have you seen that?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll say to them right now, they're like, okay, that's illegal. And not only illegal, it's dangerous. Like it's physically dangerous to your whole family. And I explain why. And they're like, well, why'd they do that? Well, they thought they were saving energy. A lot of people do things because they think it's a better idea for something else, but it causes other repercussions. That's one where it's like they never thought of how that would affect their family and gas and stuff. And not everyone runs cars constantly in their garage, like to warm them up. They might leave the door open, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't take a whole lot, and it's overtime. You get it overtime. My dad had carbon monoxide poisoning from doing a bin sweep, and like he would go in and he'd come out and drive the truck, and he'd go in and drive the truck, and everything was fine. Except one time he went in and did 2 loads in a row, and I moved the truck. And when he came out, it was like he was so drunk. And my dad doesn't drink a whole lot, so he never is drunk. And when he come out of there, he's staggering, and I'm just like, what the hell? What's going on? And we had to take him to the hospital. It was carbon monoxide poisoning because he'd done 2 in a row. Had he gone out and got fresh air, it probably wouldn't have been as bad, but he did 2 in a row. So carbon monoxide is real, and it's something that if ever, that's why the garage door closers, they say that you have to have these closers in place, and they're supposed to work. Now after, lots of people disconnect them because it's a pain, but it's there for a reason. So make sure you say that to your clients. Okay, so we're gonna walk into the